Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I put together a sample pack so I can sell it on Splice or sell it in other websites, and I'm going to show you each of the steps. So hopefully if you've been thinking about making a sample pack or creating something like this to give out to your friends or to maybe make some money on the side, this one is for you. So to do this, I usually break it down into about 4 steps. And the steps are gathering, creating and recording the sounds. Then it goes on to collating, so kind of bringing the different sounds together. So if I have a group of sort of drums, I can make them into a drum kit. And then from there, it is creating and arranging the music and the drum loops. And then lastly is mixing and then rendering out. So the first step, like I said, is gathering, creating, and recording sounds. So as you can see in this session, I've got a ton of drum samples. So you can see I've got some kicks, snares, hats, and stuff like that. Everything that you would expect to make up a drum kit. The best method that I've found for when I am creating a sample pack is to not really try and do each individual like track or sketch sort of thing. All I'll do is just start grabbing everything to make a ton of kick drums, a ton of snares, a ton of claps, and all that sort of stuff. So then later down the road, I can then group these together to make the drum kits. I find that's a little bit quicker, and then sometimes you're left with overflows, bits and pieces you didn't use, so that can get carried over possibly into another pack down the road. So as you can see here, I just have these. These are 3 kick tracks. So it looks like I haven't opened this session in a while, but let's have a listen. And you can see these have all come from the analog rhythm. And all I've done to them in terms of editing is just put a little fade on the end there, just for when I'm rendering out the sample. It makes it a little bit easier. Got a bunch of those, so these are maybe these is kind of the low end part of the kick. And then if I remember, these can be grouped together. So and you can hear that they kind of go together. And then I think the third one I've got in there, maybe just another layer to add on top. So there you go. And I've done that for all of the different sounds. Now, this is more tailored towards electronic music, but if you are making a pack purely off found sounds, you can just go and start recording bits and pieces with your field recorder. You can go in. I've seen one pack that did really well, and it was called like The Kitchen or something like that, where they've just grabbed every item that they could grab out of the kitchen and just start making sounds with it, whether it's hitting a tin can, pushing the button on the top of like a pasta sauce lid or something like that, hitting pots and pans, sugar packets to kind of make shakers, same with salt. So it all depends on the pack that you're making. This one, and for the majority of the ones that I do, I have something in mind. So I might have pitched the idea to the sample company that I work with that I was going to make more of a melodic techno pack. So that's what I've started recording all of these drums for that in mind. Once I've got all of these drums together, then I will take them and then just start grouping them together. So I would let's have a listen here. Got this kick. Ooh, that's a bit nasty. So let's go down here. Got this one. I grab this and move it over to here. Okay. Come down to the snares and claps. No. There we go. Just to move the video along. Got that one. Now we'll go to the hats. Do the same thing. So we're going to grab... I have these grouped, as you can see, closed and then the open. And usually if I've used it from a drum machine, I will kind of get the hat sound and then obviously have the closed hat to go, a closed and open hat, so it has the same sort of vibe for it. So let's just say these ones, move them across. We'll grab a cymbal, doesn't really matter the cymbal, and then start looking at the toms. So I got different toms here. So these kind of can get grouped together. We'll just take this one for now. Move it across. And then lastly we have shaker and side stick. So let's just we're going to grab these ones here. And that is our one drum kit. This would be drum kit 1 here. And then I would go through, and depending on the amount of drum kits that I'm doing, I would build that many drum kits. Again, this is just, you kind of have something in mind when you're piecing them together, that bits and pieces can fit together, but it's not until you start to create the drum loop that you're going to go, oh, that doesn't really work. Maybe I need this, or maybe it needs another layer on top of it, and you'll see that in the next session. So here we have the next session, and this is where I will start to create the music, the music loops, and the start to make the drum loop, start to mix and process the drum sounds to get them all to fit in well with each other, and just getting everything to work together. So here is just the drum kit on its own, and I've just put this into the drum designer from Logic. That in here I can open it up. It has a basic sampler that I can start to go in, and we can start to work it and whatnot. So you can see here, if I go to sampler detail, this is where I've started to filter. I can change some of the attack decay and stuff like that, and just really kind of dial in the sound a bit more without having to put a whole bunch of processing on the actual sound. So here, if I bring up the mixer, and here we go. So from here down to, it's the only thing that bugs me about Logic. Here to here, here to here. These are our drums. And you can see some of them here. I haven't really done too much to it at all. It kind of, the sound that I recorded it in, I was happy with it, and it just went from there, sort of thing. So as we go along, I didn't really use all the drum sounds. Got some hats. Let's deselect that. So what else we got here? Got some lot of bits and pieces in the background, and this sound was just super simple. And by putting the effects on, kind of create more movement and stuff like that in the background. So if we come over to here, And that's what would make up my drum kit there. Now, as I was creating this, I thought it sounds pretty decent, but it was for club music, so I wanted a bit more oomph in that low end. So I added this kick double here, and that's just from Reactor. And then that makes up the full drum kit for this one sample. They call it, some people call it different names, but this is where I would call it a family. It's like a family of sounds that make up one sort of track. And this is all of the, this is kind of going from, we did the recording and collating in the previous step. And then this one is the arranging of the sounds and creating the music. So from here, got our drum kit. We can bring that back. And this is where I've started to come in and create this little 8-bar sketch, if you want to call it that. I find that these work really well because someone can listen to this and go, I really like that. I really like the drums. I'm going to take the drums. Or I really like the arpeggiator. I'm going to use that. Or I really like the arpeggiator. I don't like the sound of the arpeggiator, but I really like the notes that are played. So then they have all of these options down the road. And I'll show you when I render it out how I label everything so people have the best option, but to not be overwhelmed, sort of thing. So from here, we've got a bass that I just added in. Pretty, like, whatever. And I've just used the 101. And even though I have a 101 over there, when I'm making sample packs, sometimes it's just a little bit easier. I kind of know what I want. I can just dial it in a little bit here. And next we'll go with the arpeggiator lines. And for this, I used a combination of the art plugin from Arturia. And then I took this same MIDI and then I sent it out to my TTSH, the ARP clone. And I find that layering the two together, you get like a really good result where you get the very clean and crisp sound from the plugin, but then you also get a little bit of dirt from the actual sort of hardware version. And it doesn't have to be the same synth. Sometimes it's good to layer it with a different type of synthesizer, whether that be a plugin or a hardware. So, and the two together kind of gives it a nice feel to it. Next up, we've got the chords, and I did the same thing here. So I've got the chords playing, and then it looks like I've gone to peak. And then I just use this for the plug-in version. It's like a 106 sort of sound. And then all together. So there you go. That's sort of one sort of sketch brought together. Some of the main tools that I like to use when I'm writing the chord progression is, let's bring up, go to this one here, down here, is some of the mixing key plugins. The Captain Chords is really good. We'll just say, yeah, A minor. This is a way that you can go in, and sometimes you might be blocked for a good chord progression or whatnot. This kind of has it all laid out. We can add another one. We're going to change this one to go up to here, and we'll go to here, and then we'll just leave that as that. But then you can start to change the time of it, and move this one over, and you can come in and maybe you want to split it, and we can change this one to here. Like, it's really good. You can come in here, we'll go up an octave, and then we can add more notes to the actual progression. It's just kind of something, if you have to do a large amount of chord progression, sometimes you can get tapped out for ideas, and this is a really good way to kind of speed up the process, and you can just hear the results pretty quickly. So this is one that I use maybe for like 40 to 50% of the chord progressions, and then with the things like arpeggiators, or if I have a lead line, I'll usually just do those in by hand. So yeah, from there we've kind of done the arranging, and then this is where I would go through and do all of the sketches or families of tracks. So they're all done. Say you're doing 20 of them, maybe 30 of them. Then I will go back, because I've kind of had my production hat on. Then I'll go back and I will put my mixing hat on, and I'll go down and mix all of these tracks down like it's a finished record. Obviously, I'm not going to have a bunch of processing and stuff like that on the outboard. You can see I've got bits and pieces here now. For when I'm mixing it down, I'll turn that off, and then I'll just have these 2 meters going. So now I'll be able to hear and see what's going on with the track. And then I'll go through the process of mixing all those down. Once I get to the end, I can kind of give it a bit of a break, go back to the start, have another listen, see if I need to tweak anything, and go through it again. From there, it's up to the next stage of rendering it out and making sure that when you have the loop, we'll turn that on so it sounds a little bit better for now. One of the big things is you want to make sure that when you get to the end here, it loops back around seamlessly. And one thing, if we just rendered this out now real quick, good bounce. Yep. So now you can see I've bounced the track down just as a test. And if I come in and you look at the end here, you can see it's probably going to get a little click if we solo that. It's actually not too bad. Got this. It's actually not too bad. One thing you could do is just come in and put... Oh yeah, it's pretty good. Sometimes you can get a massive click that you'll have to go in and make sure that it's smooth between the two. So when you loop it, it's going to be a continuous loop and someone's not going to get a click, a pop, or something like that. So for rendering, what I tend to do is, let's bring over, this is another pack that I've done, Dreamy Lo-Fi pack. So I have my my sample pack into loops, one-shots, and textures. And I mean, everyone, you've all been on Splice, you all know how the different sample packs are labeled and whatnot. So I'll have the full music loops, and that will be like this. It'll be everything in there, drums, bass, everything like that. So I'll have one render out of the full kit, and then you can see how I've named it there. Got all the elements playing so people can get a little snapshot of what's going on with the sound, and they're like, okay, cool, yeah, I like that. And then from there I separate it into the main parts, obviously drums and the music. So for the drums, we have the full drum kit, and then these are just the elements make it up. So we have the kick, hats, and little perk. Sometimes you can, if you have a lot of drums going on, like in this session here, I have a lot of drums happening in here. I wouldn't go too crazy with it. I would still just have the kick, clap, snare, hat, and then possibly just maybe percussion at the end here. So those ones together, and then the tom on its own. Each loop and each sketch is going to be slightly different, but you'll kind of get the idea. You don't want to have open hi-hat, closed hi-hat, snare, clap, and everything like that, because the pack just gets too big and it's just a little bit overwhelming for people to have all of those different elements. And in here, you can see I have the music. So we've got the bass, and then I've added the MIDI for the bass. Same for the rest of the elements, the lead, the piano, and whatnot, just in case someone wants, they really like the sound of the they really like the chord progression of maybe the bass, the lead, or the piano, or whichever element you have in there, but they don't really like the sound that you've created for it. So this way it gives them a little bit more flexibility that they can grab those MIDI files, drag them into their own session, and then they have those available. And I think I tried to like cut this video down. Hopefully that sort of covers everything. And then lastly, I've got some do's and do nots. So one big do is make sure you label all of your samples as you go. Whether that's just recording in and having the kicks, so then you start to build up your drum kits as you go, or in this case, if you've got the full finished loops that you're rendering out, make sure you have them all nice and easy so people can see what's going on. Another big one is variation of the BPM and variation of the key. It kind of adds more flavors to your sample pack and will give the people more options for when downloading and purchasing those. Arrange the pack so it's user friendly. So you can see here, I've got the title, I've got it split into loops, one shots, and textures, full loops, and then these music ones are just the music on its own. So if I just play this, so that has no drums with it. So if someone just wants the music, they can get the music, and that's why I have 25 of drums with music, and then I have another 20 of just the music on its own. And lastly, if you're using outboard equipment, make sure that you have low noise floor on those sounds. It's good to have a little bit of grit in there, but sometimes you can get a sample if you have multiple outboard instruments. They're all pretty noisy, they add together, and for a lot of people, they just don't want that sort of sound. They want a bit of a cleaner sound. So just try and minimize the noise floor and have correct gain staging throughout. And then the do nots, make sure that you don't clip the output when you're rendering them out. You want to give people some room to then mix those elements. Someone might just grab one whole pack where they have the drums and music together. They put it in. You've absolutely smashed the hell out of it, and then you're giving them a little bit less option to kind of maneuver and create something fresh with that. Make sure that you're free from clicks and pops when it loops back around, or within the track. Maybe you have some artifacts or something like that in there. Make sure it's all nice and clean. And lastly, the big one, and I've seen some bigger artists do this, and it's kind of a little bit disappointing, but don't just download samples, change the pitch of them, and then try and upload them to sell again. That's a big no-no. You want to create your own sample pack. You don't have to have outboard gear. You can use a kick drum plugin. You can use other percussion plugins to kind of get all your drum sounds. You can just really rinse out those few plugins with distortions and different effects to really kind of give the pack a lot of flavor. So, I know this has been longer than most videos, but hopefully I've got the markers in there, and you can refer back to this if you're starting out in creating samples and your own sample packs. And again, hopefully I've inspired you to create something today. And until next time, see you later.